Well, I mean, I think there's a disconnect here. So the Welsh Government's line on the 223 million is they didn't spend 223 million to ban GB News, which would be ludicrous, let's face it. But they were upgrading their audiovisual system, which cost 223 million. At the same time as which they banned GB News just by pressing a button to ban the feed. Now, they did that, at least temporarily, because of the comments that were made last year. I think it was last year, wasn't it, by Lawrence Fox and Dan Wootton.
Oh, give me strength.
Long time ago.
Oh, give me strength. Those two presenters aren't here anyway. They aren't here anymore at this channel. And the idea that a group of politicians would be so upset by the comments of two people on a channel that they would ban a whole output of political debate is disturbing.
Their line is that those comments, as GB News, in fairness, recognise, which is why those presenters are not there anymore, that those comments were undefensible. And their line is that they want to protect their staff and so not have them exposed to the potential for that to be revisited. I think there are other points.
Like the staff just don't have to turn. You can just turn off the channel. They don't have to have GB News on in the Welsh Parliament. They can just watch an alternative channel, although they'd be missing out.
There are other points, and it's not for me to tell GB News bosses what to do, of course, but there are other points, is that GB News is under investigation by Ofcom for a number of other issues. So it would seem to me that if GB News wants to be back on the TVs in the Welsh Senedd, then it should do what it can to make sure that it's complying with Ofcom regulations.
That is so chilling. That kind of mindset makes my blood run cold. And if that is a glimpse of an incoming Labour government, I think we should all be really scared, because what you're effectively saying is that individuals can't make their own decisions about what they do consume. And if they do consume it, whether they are influenced by it. In
no way am I speaking on behalf of the Labour Party. I'm giving you my opinion. Yeah. So don't take this as anything.
Fair dues.
But Mike, you do say as well, just because an organisation is being investigated doesn't mean it's done anything wrong.
No, it doesn't. But I think basically the Senate's line is, as long as that investigation is ongoing, they are not going to put GB News back up.
It was the Labour First Minister. This was Mark Drakeford, wasn't it? The Labour First Minister, Mike. This was Mark Drakeford, who's just stood down as Labour First Minister, who hates GB News, who hates the Tory party, showing his true political colours, and it's an abuse of power.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would encourage you to get somebody on from the Welsh Senedd who will be able to give a much clearer opinion than I can. I'm in Sheffield. I'm not in Wales. I cannot speak for the Welsh Senedd.
You've tried to defend it. I would suggest it would be that. It's. I think it's extraordinary. Sorry, go on, Mike.
I was just going to say, from their perspective, given the comments that were made by Lawrence Fox, which, as you say, he's no longer there. I mean, fair point. They found that, very, very difficult to deal with, and they didn't want to have their staff working around TV where GB News is coming out of the speaker. Yeah. I do understand that. And given the investigations that are going on, I mean, hopefully GB News, we'll see if GB News is cleared or not. And at that point, the Welsh Government may revisit the decision that they made.
At any point, every media organisation is being investigated in some shape or form by Ofcom.
But they haven't done it to the BBC yet.
Well, the BBC aren't subject to the same Ofcom. They have internal investigations, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I think has, set people's backs up, and certainly this is something that people say to me, is the fact that, you've had a number of shows where you've had a Conservative MP being interviewed by another Conservative MP. There is no sense in which that is impartial, communication, and that isn't done on other channels. So, I mean, again, it's not for me to criticise your television channel, but it may be that you decide you don't want to do things like that in the future.
Thank you, Mike. I would push back on that. I think that particular incident was when Esther McVeigh and her husband were interviewing, was it Boris Johnson? Philip David, was interviewing Boris David? Anyway, Boris Johnson. I think in those situations, this channel would take a position on that. But as far as I know, and listen, we work here, we strive for balance.
We do.
We strive. That's why you're here, Mike.
Like you on, Mike.
Why we love having you, Mike.
Yeah.
And we are a broad church, and we will welcome anyone with any left voice at any time, and we take that responsibility very seriously.
And if the new First Minister of Wales would like to come on, we'd love to speak to him.